Welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show. In each episode, it's our goal to help you turn part-time hours into a full-time income selling almost anything on Amazon. And now, your hosts of the show, Stephen and Rebecca Smotherman.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. Today we're on episode number 304, and we are talking about the key to gaining and maintaining momentum in your FBA business. And here to talk about that with me is my co-host, Stephen. Welcome to the show, Stephen. What have we got today?
We're talking about getting things not only started, but just excelling from that point on, because momentum is a huge part of selling on Amazon, or at least being successful at selling on Amazon. And we're going to break it down today in this episode.
If you've ever felt like your Amazon business is 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, today's episode is for you. And let's be real, it's for me.
My hand is raised as well.
We're talking about the not-so-secret key to building unstoppable momentum and keeping it going. And since we're talking about momentum, we want to make sure you know that our new Momentum FBA membership is open, and it's exciting. And we're thrilled for those of you who've already joined, and we want to make sure that if you haven't joined yet, you get on board while we still have our founders pricing available. The day this episode drops, you still have time until Tuesday, August 12th at midnight Central to get in at the rate of $39 a month or $429 for the year. And after that time, you can still join, but you won't get locked in at the founders rate. So go to fulltimefba.com/momentum to join and get monthly mini courses, co-working sessions, skill sprints, and more.
All right, well, let's get into this episode. Something we hear from sellers from time to time is, I feel stuck. I don't know what to do next. I was making progress in the past, but now I hit a wall. I had great profit growth for 6 months or so, but now my business is plateaued and things like that. And this is all so common. We've seen it too. And we've had to work through these issues ourselves, and we've coached countless other sellers through this problem of being stuck. And the problem comes down to a lack of momentum, a lack of forward motion. And the reality is that momentum doesn't just disappear randomly. You don't just stop in your tracks without reason. Over and over again, we've seen that the reason sellers lose momentum is that they have a breakdown in their consistency.
At the risk of getting really nerdy here, it helps to understand Newton's first law of motion.
I have to say, I never expected to hear those words from you.
I know, right? I was an English major in college, so science is not my thing. But I did take physics in high school, and somehow in thinking through this issue of momentum for FBA sellers, the concept of Newton's laws popped into my head. And I also think I've heard it from James Clear talking about habits. So anyway, the first law of motion is that an object in motion will stay in motion, and an object at rest will stay at rest unless something happens to the object to change it. So that goes back to what you were saying, Stephen. Our momentum in our FBA business doesn't just disappear on its own. Something has to happen for us to lose our forward progress. Something has changed. And it could be a number of factors, but the number one reason we've seen when we start digging deeper and looking at what's going on in a coaching student's business is that they lost consistency somewhere along the way, or they never even developed it.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe they worked really hard at the beginning and they got a burst of good luck and profits from that hustle, but then it trickled off and they weren't sure why they lost their profits. Well, they never had a good, consistent, well-paced habits set up in systems in their business, and they weren't able to keep that forward motion. And so if you want to build a long-lasting, sustainable Amazon business, you have to put in good business practices in place and have those repeatable systems set up and have consistency in your schedule. You can't just skate by on hustle and random bursts of effort here and there and expect to have solid momentum being built up over the long haul. And if we drill down even further from that point, the most important habit in your business, if you want to build profit-driving momentum, is being consistent in your sourcing.
That's right. The cold, hard truth is that if you let your inventory pipeline run dry, your business momentum will absolutely die. Without a consistent sourcing schedule, your sales will stall out, your payouts will shrink, you'll lose that forward motion. And what does the first law of motion say? If you're at rest, you're going to stay at rest. It will take more effort to do something to get moving again than the effort it would have taken if you could have stayed in motion in the first place.
I mean, it's like being in stop and go traffic. I mean, it's frustrating. It's so much easier in business and in life to keep going and keep a good pace and take consistent actions than it is to stop and start and stop and start. Because realistically, at some point, you're going to decide that it's easier just to not start again. And then it's game over from there.
And this is true for every seller. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new seller making a few $100s in sales every month, or if you've been doing this for years and you're at $20K a month. If you take your foot off the gas when it comes to sourcing, your sales will absolutely slow down and you will lose momentum that will be incredibly hard to regain.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is the key. Consistency in your sourcing. I mean, it seems so basic, and that's because it is. It is absolutely fundamental to your success as an Amazon seller, and we really want to hammer that home for you. And the reason we're focusing on this is that one of the top reasons that we see sellers fail is the inconsistency. I hear it so often that I'm actually not surprised anymore when I talk to someone who's having momentum issues, and this is not at least part of that problem. So right now, we're going to give you some suggestions on how to build consistent sourcing habits. And regardless of how long you've been sourcing, these are going to help you. And regardless of how great you think you are at keeping a schedule, I want you to take a hard look at your habits and at your schedule and see if you have any room for improvement. You might be surprised at where you can make even a small adjustment and find massive growth in your momentum.
Okay, the first thing we want to make sure is that you are setting clear sourcing goals. Not sales goals, not dollar amounts that you're wanting to earn at the end of the year, although you can use those numbers to reverse engineer your sourcing goals. You need to have a target for how much time you're going to spend sourcing, or how many items you're going to source, or how much money you're going to spend on inventory each week. And that all depends on where you are in the lifespan of your business, how much money you have, whether you're part-time, whether you're full-time, and so forth. So if you're just getting started and you're still not really speedy at sourcing, you might want to give yourself a time goal. You could say 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, 8 hours a week if you need to break it down more like that in a weekly chunk of time, whatever works. But if you're years into selling and you've stalled out, you might need to take a look at what you've been spending each week, or look at what you've spent for the month on sourcing, and then give yourself a goal to spend more. The first month, you might try spending 10% more each week, and then you can bump it up again after a couple of months and see if that helps you break through your plateau. This is something I do on a regular basis to make sure I'm maintaining momentum, and I just look at my numbers and I see where I need to set or adjust my sourcing goals.
The next thing is to make sure that you have a clear idea that regular sourcing is non-negotiable in your schedule. Put the time for your sourcing in your calendar and do not break that commitment to yourself. I mean, this is your job. This is your livelihood. You need to take your schedule seriously and just do it. Now, we get it. Emergencies are going to come up and you'll need to reschedule. You'll get sick at times, or your kids will get sick. Things happen and you work around it. But a new season of Survivor is not an emergency, or something else that comes up that sounds fun that you want to do. That's not an emergency. I mean, this is your job. And if you want your business to grow and be a serious source of income for your life, you're going to need to treat it as such. This is one of the hardest areas for newer entrepreneurs to learn how to balance the flexibility of your schedule and the fact that you actually need to get things done.
Yeah, we're into our second decade of selling on Amazon, and the place where this is still the hardest for me is when it comes to family and friends inviting me to do things during the middle of my workday. I think I've managed to convince some of those closest to me that I actually do work and I can't just take time off to hang out with them all the time. But there are still times when I have to say no to other people because I've scheduled work for that day, and I want to be committed to keeping our sales momentum going in FBA. And it's hard because one of the reasons I want to run my own business is that I love being in charge of my schedule, but I do still need to work.
Yeah, 100%. And finally, this is something that will help you set up a sourcing rhythm that works for you at the stage of business that you're in. This is another area where you'll still need to make adjustments to find balance as you go. Some of you might be only doing one sourcing method, for instance, retail arbitrage. So every time you source, you're doing RA. But you'll want to set up a consistent rhythm for scouting at each of your usual suppliers, once a week, once a month, whatever you find that works best for you. And you'll want to work in times in your schedule where you're scouting at new locations as well.
But let's say you use multiple methods of sourcing. You'll still want to set up a rhythm of going through all of your different suppliers on a consistent basis. So perhaps you're doing wholesale sourcing and online arbitrage as your two main methods. You could have a schedule where you check your OA leads list every morning and go through all your leads and your rabbit trails for the day. And then every afternoon, you go through your wholesale contacts and you work on your price lists and purchase orders. And then you could go out every other Friday to do some RA sourcing just to mix things up. It's up to you how you want to set it all up, but the key is to be consistent. Set up a sourcing rhythm, be consistent with it for a month, and then reevaluate whether you want to keep going the same way.
I realize now that this podcast episode, it could turn into a drinking game. I mean, take a drink every time we say momentum or consistency.
Well, then that would mean that we've accomplished our goal because momentum is built on consistency. It's not something you just sit around and wait for it to happen. You can build your own momentum, and then that's the key to consistent sales and payouts and profits.
Nicely said. And we don't want you to forget that the Momentum FBA Founders pricing at $39 a month is still available until Tuesday, August 12th at midnight Central. And our goal with this program is to help you build consistency into your business so that you can gain and maintain momentum. And you'll get co-working sessions, sourcing sprints, monthly mini courses, all designed to help you get focused on making simple steps in growing your Amazon business. And so go to fulltimefba.com/momentum to sign up today and get the founders pricing before it's gone.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. As a reminder, all of the links we mentioned in this episode, along with the show notes, can be found at fulltimefba.com/304 because this is episode number 304.
And next week on the Full-Time FBA Show, we're going to talk about what we wish we learned earlier about selling on Amazon. I can't go back in time and tell myself in the past, so what I'm going to do is tell you what I wish I learned earlier next week on the Full-Time FBA Show.
That's all for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. So head over to fulltimefba.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes and links from this episode. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter where you'll get several free downloads of our popular and helpful Amazon FBA resources. Now, take action on what you've learned today so you can find success at turning part-time hours into a full-time income with Amazon FBA.